Hi, greetings from QGenesis. Hope everybody is keeping well and safe out there. Well, I'm Sophie here, heading the delivery. At the outset, I would like to thank everybody for joining us. We believe learning is continuous and hence we are here. Before we could proceed with the session, I would like to give a brief about the organization. Here you go about QGenesis. It's a global consulting firm with more than 20 years of footprint in various domains such as IT, telecom, industrial automation, oil and gas, marine, subsea, FMCG, manufacturing, etc. We conduct corporate audits in terms of clients' quality, safety, sustainability, security, health, and reputational risk. We also build incredible connections through learning and training. Last but not the least, we provide consultation on process improvements as well. That's for now about the organization. I would like to inform the participants that the Q&A session is open since the start of the session. Whomsoever has any queries, please post your queries through the chat window. Let me introduce our specialist trainer, Ms. Ranjita, who's going to handle the session now. Ranjita is a creative training delivery specialist for soft skills, management skills, and service delivery excellence in corporate and education. She has 11 years of international experience. Her core skills are in designing and delivering courses and workshops for the new age professional from the start of their career to the very top. Using global business best practices, Ranjita has delivered courses for IT, pharmaceuticals, education, retail, manufacturing, and finance. She keenly implements the latest learning tools and methods to deliver high impact sessions. So let's enjoy a knowledge packed training session. Here you go, Ms. Ranjita. On behalf of QGenesis, I welcome you.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here, and it's fantastic to be here once again. So, in today's session, we are going to look at problem solving. And this is one of my favorite sessions because every time I deliver this, and I have delivered this session in several different places, there is so much that one can go deeper into this. And that is exactly what we are going to do today. So let's get started with problem solving and decision making. So a session on problem solving requires decision making skills. Okay, the two go together, and we will understand what the exact relationship between problem solving and decision making is, what are the different components, what are the different approaches, and sort of have this resolution mindset or a problem solving mindset. And you could be a student attempting IELTS, SAT, any of the competitive exams. You could be a professional who has just started. You could be a professional who has worked for a long time. You could be somebody in management, or you could be somebody who's looking for a job. Whatever your situation is, professional situation is, or scholastic situation is, problem solving techniques and decision making techniques are pretty much have similar foundations. So let's get into it and see what these foundations are. Okay. In particular, in today's sessions, we are going to understand different styles and approaches to seeing problems and making decisions. So by different styles, we are starting with something called self-awareness, and we will go into self-awareness a little bit deeper. So by the end of it, you have an insight into how you tend to think, how you tend to see problems, and how you tend to look for solutions. Next is we are going to look at something called a stress approach. A stress, STRESS, stands for something else. And you will also know very quickly when we get to that point what exactly it stands for and why it is a system that works. And finally, adaptation to change. Okay, so we are not really looking at is this a big small problem, gigantic problem? We are not going to look into the scale of the problem, but rather our understanding will be a complexity of problem. And through the course, what I would like to establish is that with resolving problems, while looking for solutions to problems, we also look for an opportunity to change and to grow. So the session today will tie all of these together. And ultimately, the goal of the session today is, in the face of a problem, you have the tools to apply them and to resolve the situation, to resolve the problem, and to come out better than before. So let's get started with that. Before we go into the self-awareness part, which is the first part of the problem, understanding the styles, at this point, I would like you to know that the chat is open. So if you have any questions, do type them in, and towards the end of the session, you can look at answering the sessions. Also, throughout the session, I may ask you some questions. Okay, so do type in your answers and we will look at the responses towards the end. So my very first question to you is, why is it important to you to have problem solving skills? Okay, we all know the answer, that when there is a problem we need to solve it, but we are talking about the skills of problem solving. Why do you particularly want to have these skills? Okay, how does it benefit you? um, do you perhaps believe that if there is a problem, things will get better, something or the other will happen, and there is an automatic solution? Or do you want to be the sort of person who is analytical, who can map a problem within its context and then come up with a strategic solution? So think about why these skills are important for you and put them in the chat. And then towards the end of the session, let's look at some responses to this question. Why are problem solving skills important? So, um, all of you are quite familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So let's just look at it a little bit, because if you really look at any sort of management skills, soft skills, any adaptation skills, resolution skills, we see these hierarchy of needs coming over and over again. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're not aware, let me just take a couple of minutes to look at it. There are 5 different levels. At the base, there are physiological needs, that is food, breathing, everything that your body needs to survive. Above that, you have safety and security. So this includes employment, healthcare, a family, or not living in warlike conditions. So all of these come under safety and security. Above that is family and friendship and love, belonging, a sense of community, all of that. Above that is self-esteem, and self-esteem is achieved through feeling a kind of having awareness of the self and knowing both the strengths and the weaknesses of oneself and being comfortable with that. This is defined as self-esteem, the level of comfort you have with yourself, with awareness of your strengths and weakness. So self-esteem is not really just feeling good about yourself, but it is an acknowledgement and acceptance of your strengths and weaknesses and areas in which you can grow. Finally, is self-actualization. Self-actualization is related to self-esteem. It is the next step. Self-actualization is a bit more where you are constantly looking for avenues to understand your weakness and change them to something even better. And here you use creative problem solving, you use techniques that are related to the higher mind to solve any problems and to willingly, purposefully move to becoming a better person. Now, why is the hierarchy of needs important in problem solving? The reason is every single thing mentioned here, physiological needs, safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization, every single area of these needs can encounter problems. You can have problems with food. You can have problems with the people you're with. You can have problems because you live in an unstable political scenario. So problems exist in every need that human beings have, right? And therefore, it is essential, the skill in itself is essential for survival at any level of survival. And even at the level of self actualization, you still have problems and you need the skill of problem solving to overcome and to continue on this journey. So, if you understand everything that you need and that everything could potentially encounter a problem, and then you apply strategies of problem solving, you are more equipped to having a scientific or an analytical um, approach towards problems. Okay, so this is an area. What I'm putting out here is areas where you can have problems, and the bottom line is problems can be anywhere. Moving on, I've picked two quotes and I think they are relevant and they set the stage for what we want to say today. The first one says, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Okay, both by Albert Einstein. So Einstein here says we created them. This is a little bit philosophical. It is debatable whether we have created problems or problems exist. The nature of things at a very cosmic level. Maybe when things exist, problems exist and we did not create them. That is debatable. But what is interesting is that we can apply analysis and we can solve problems. So this is basically if you are somebody who naturally thinks, okay, this problem is going to solve itself, or if you have sometimes trouble accepting certain problems, that problems exist, then this probably applies to you. That changing the way we think, that we can solve problems, we can be analytical about it, we can be scientific about it, this applies. And on the right, we have, if I had 60 minutes to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes defining it and 5 minutes solving it. So once again, Einstein here talks about how understanding the true nature of the problem takes up 95% of the problem solving skills, time, resources, and 5 minutes to solve it. So that is exactly what we want to do. Gain an understanding of two things. One is our own style, or the styles that exist and what are these styles that apply to us. And the second is the nature of problems. When we marry these two together, we come to a cozy little place that is the arena of problem solving. And with the scientific approach, we guarantee professional success, we guarantee reduced stress and anxiety and other problems because of problems and approaches to problems. Okay, so so by now you should be thinking that problems exist everywhere, and then there is way of solving them with professional skills. Right. So we are going to talk about this quite a bit because the very first point is going back to this quote If you had 60 minutes to solve a problem, spend 55 minutes defining it. Although we will not spend 55 minutes defining our problem, we are going to spend a little bit of time understanding the true complex nature of problems. Okay, are they complex? How do you identify if a problem is complex? How do you what are the different layers? Okay, and if you really see, uh, read books about problem solving, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, the character has a problem, they overcome the problem, and all that. Problems unravel or peel themselves like the layers of an onion. Okay, you open and then there's more, there's more, there's more. It kind of it seems like to go deeper and deeper inside. So we are going to focus a little bit on this x-axis and y-axis. And if you have comments about this, you can leave them in the chat and then we will come back to these problems. So this scale, these are called very wicked problems. Okay. And researchers who have come up with this, the team of scientists and policy makers, I'll tell you the names in a minute. Um, Very wicked problems, they could not find a word that actually fit the nature of the quadrant. Not really the quadrant, it's divided into 9 parts, so that piece, that top right um, uh, window, they call them very wicked problems. Okay, so we are going to define these problems and see what causes very wicked problems. And the question you should really be asking yourself is, if you have a work problem, or if you have a relationship problem, or a school problem, a problem getting somewhere, where would you put these problems? Where in this x and y axis grid would you place your problem? The first skill you need to do this is to remove yourself from that equation. Okay, and then look at the situation. So we are not getting into any kind of psychoanalysis or self-awareness part right now, but we are looking at nature of problems right now. So on the x-axis, there is increasing difficulty with regards to stakeholders or institutions. Wherever you see politically, it just means parties. So we're not talking about politics, we're just talking about different sets of people, groups of people. So they are using the word politically, but it's not related to politics or anything like that, just to make that clear. So on the x-axis, towards the start of the graph, we have cooperative or indifferent relationship. Okay, so first, the members are within the same group, and within the same group, the people have differences in idea. And here, increasing complexity of problems is on the y-axis. So people who have within the same group, so within the same group automatically means that they have the same goal. They probably are from the same family, they're from the same school, from the same company, from the same team, from the same sports club. So they are within the same community, but the problems can still arise. So at the very base, you have problem is clear, solution is clear. So for example, a simple problem is there is a match and it's raining. Okay, so audience have arrived, it's raining, so the cricket or the football match or whatever the match was cannot take place. The solution is very clear. The solution is wait for it to stop raining or reschedule the match. So it's a problem, you apply a tried and tested solution. So that is known as a tame problem. When the complexity increases, you have the problem that's clear, but the solution is not clear. Okay, a classic example of this is something related to, you know what you want to do, but you probably don't have funds. Okay, or you're thinking about the best way to get funds, or you don't have time. Often this area. These are analytically complex problems. Okay, analytically complex problems almost always are related to resources, some kind of resources. And that's why when I looked at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because that you need resources to achieve all the different categories of needs. So analytically complex problems, the solutions, the first check that you tick off is, do I know what the problem is? Do I know what I need to solve it? Do I have what I need to solve it? So you're checking boxes. So before you check boxes, you need to have this grid somewhere to understand what nature is your problem. So analytically complex problems, solution not clear, solution requires a bit more brainstorming, solution requires people to agree with you, people to get on board with you, and all of that. And then on the same scale, you have neither problem nor solution is clear. And these are cognitively complex problems. Okay, they're called cognitively complex problems. And I think at the moment, the whole coronavirus is a classic example of cognitively complex problem. Okay, although we do have clarity on what the problem is, I personally believe not everybody knows the full extent of the problem. Okay, I do believe there are different people who everybody acknowledges there is a problem, but the degree to which it exists is different in different people's mind. Okay, and the solution is definitely not clear, right? However, everybody wants this problem to go away. That is why the problem of a pandemic right now is a cognitively complex problem. Okay, so whenever you see somebody defining coronavirus as a simple problem that does not have a solution, the problem may not be simple. It is a complex problem because of the sheer number of people it affects and the fact that it is of varying degree to different people, even within the same family. There's fear involved, there is lack of information, there's so many complexities within that. So that is a good problem. Now, moving on the y-axis, we have multiple parties, each with only some of relevant knowledge. Okay, so here it's probably team A, team B. Maybe within the same organization, within the same community, football team, cricket team, doctors with nurses, there are multiple parties. There are two sets of people, two identities. When such an identity exists within a problem related to parties, sets of people, and both the problem and the solution is clear, you have what is called a communicatively complex problem. Okay, communicatively complex problems means your channels of communication have to be clear, because what a piece of information A has, B doesn't have it, or what B has, C doesn't have it. And these can create problems, and these have to be streamlined. Okay, so once again, right now we can see this a little bit. Okay, say for example, you go to you want to travel. Okay, you want to go from point A to point B. And your traveling requires you to purchase a ticket. It requires you to queue up and then get on the flight or the train or the bus and then get off at the destination. So considering this is a situation, you know what you want to do and you know the solution, the situation and what the solution is. However, it requires you to deal with a ticket seller. It requires you to have your temperature checked. It requires you to get a boarding pass, several things. And the piece of information your ticket seller has got may not be the piece of information that your person at the boarding gate has got. And that is a communicatively complex problem. So in this gamut, you need to create channels that reach all the stakeholders easily. You can sometimes also overdo this when you work within a company. So, for example, if you are within a team, you may sometimes make you may sometimes CC everybody on the team, thinking that everybody needs to know this, and that can also be a communicatively complex problem, right? Because you want what you're saying, and sometimes, yes, everybody should know about it, but sometimes it may not be necessary for everybody to know about it. Okay, but do bear in mind that communication plays a very important role in problem solving, and in of itself, even when the problem and the solution are clear, it can become a it holds a place in the quadrant. Next, multiple parties, half knowledge here, half knowledge there. What person A knows, person B doesn't know, and there are loose channels. And the problem is clear, and the solution is not clear. The same thing, like when we don't have a budget or we don't have time to achieve a goal, and there are multiple parties. Okay, there is a finance team, an accounting team, and say a service delivery team. That becomes a complex problem, and that is like the peeling of an onion, right? So within an organization, the accounts team has to work with the sales team, and they have to work with the services team, and they have to work with the customer, and they know there is a problem, and the solution is not clear. And we see this kind of problem in the service industry. For say you buy a washing machine and it breaks down, it's immediately a complex problem. There are multiple parties. What person A does, person B does not do, and the problem is clear. The machine isn't working. What the solution is, what should be fixed in order to make the washing machine work, is not clear. So we don't know if it is a replacement. We don't know if the wiring of the house is incorrect. So this creates a complex problem. In the same quadrant, we have multiple parties, each with some bit of the puzzle, and neither the problem is clear nor is the solution clear. This is conceptually contentious problem. And this is also something very common, especially when we are negotiating, especially when there is a lot of back and forth of of uh, negotiations between clients and customers, or between stakeholders and institutes. Okay, so conceptually contentious problem. Here, what A thinks the problem is, B may not think that is the problem. And B's and A's pieces of information are completely different. These are complex, complicated problems. It requires communication. It requires, there is no solution. Okay, the problem has not been defined, and the solution is definitely far, far away. Conceptually contentious problem. Okay, a good example of this can be when there is a merger between two companies. Okay, so they have to let some people go, for instance. So both companies, okay, may have different points of views at a very high level. The cultures of two different companies may be at conflict with each other. A company A may be focused on product excellence. Company B may be about after sales service. So multiple parties, what A knows, B doesn't know. And although at a great scale, you may think that two big giants coming together, but then this is a classic area for a conceptually contentious problem. Okay, and understanding this will help you solve it. While looking at problem solving, it is intensely important that we are able to understand what the gamut is. If you apply the strategy of problem solution of analytically complex problems to conceptually contentious problem, um, you will have to do a lot of rework over and over again. Okay. So for example, analytically complex problems means that everybody is within the same group. So you will start with a base point understanding of everybody within that same group. However, a conceptually contentious problem, people are not within the same group. So you cannot start with, um, sorry, you cannot start with assuming everybody is on the same plate when it comes to conceptually contentious problems. So identifying the parties involved and the communication channels involved is the first step to problem solving. And once again, this is exactly what Einstein said, that identifying what it is, spending 55 minutes on asking the right questions and understanding the problem is the first is 95% of the problem solved. Then we come to the most difficult categories of problems: multiple parties conflicting in values or interests. This is like a situation of a hostile takeover. To begin with, there are conflicting values and interests. Conflicting values can be, uh, party A values financial profits, party B values legacy in the market. Okay, so that is a classic case of multiple parties conflicting values or interests. One moment. So, Sophia, if you don't mind, could you confirm if you can hear me?
We can hear you, Ranjita. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Continuing. Yes, multiple parties conflicting in values or interests. Okay, so this is a classic case, like I said, of a hostile takeover, or very recently when a lot of companies had to shut, like food delivery companies. Okay, when they had to close, before they closed, they were in conflict with restaurant unions. Okay, food delivery companies were uh, gaining more percentage for the service they provided compared to the actual restaurant owners. So food delivery services started issuing discounts, okay, discounts that were extremely competitive, and individual restaurants could not keep up with those discounts and still make a profit. Okay, so multiple parties, conflicting values and interests. When the problem and solution is clear, they are called politically complex problem. When the problem is clear, but the solution is not clear, once again, because of lack of resources, they are called politically turbulent problems. Okay, and this, by now we are reaching a situation of chaos, multiple parties, different interests. And remember, within multiple parties, within that party, you can have individuals who don't agree with each other, or who have in different relationships, or who work in different time zones, or who work with different value systems, or anything, or who work on different technologies. So you can have multiple parties with complex inter relationships within them that are um, multiple parties with complex relationships within each other, and that the problem is unclear, The problem is clear, but the solution is not clear. Politically turbulent problems. And then finally, you have the worst kind called the very wicked problems. This is because the people who made this simply don't have the vocabulary, or they could not think of a word that fits when there are multiple parties with conflicting interests, with conflicting uh, values, with indifferent relationships within these multiple parties. So you can imagine what this is like, with wicked, with where the problem is not clear, the solution is not clear, and these can become very wicked problems. And remember, with multiple um, parties, their uh, interests are different. Okay, and within that there can be two problems: relationships within those complex parties within a single party of that larger unit could be indifferent, and they could have half knowledge each. Right, so these are very wicked problems. Often these are problems that do not get resolved. These are problems between, countries, or just it basically ends in some kind of a collapse of a system, because nobody can reach a consensus. And this is a good indication to ensure that you remove yourself from from very wicked problems, or you remove your organization, or you ensure that your organization does not really get into very wicked problems. Okay, and there is examples of companies collapsing because of this. Too many things all at once, too many negotiations, too many multiple parties, all with a stake in it, all trying to get a piece of the pie. And there is a problem that comes without a clear solution. These are very wicked problems. Okay, so very quickly, this is the grid of very wicked problems. This resource is available. You can look it up. And on a scale of X and Y, increasingly difficult stakeholders or institutions, and increasingly complex problems. So you could write in the chat, do you have an example of any of these? And as far as we are with tame problems, analytically complex problems, communicatively complex problems, we are in waters that we can easily, with skill, with knowledge, with with analytical problem solving approach, easily solve. It is the politically complex problem, politically turbulent problems, very wicked problems, conceptually contentious problems, and cognitively complex problems that are the next level. And here we definitely need to mitigate a lot of milestones. Like, we need to have resources, we need experts, we need everybody working towards the same goal. Okay, so understanding how problems work, understanding where to place them, will ensure that you take the correct actions. Right. So now this is about the problems, right? The nature of problems and how they exist. Let's look a little bit at ourselves now. The problem could be any of these. However, if we don't apply ourselves, an application always starts with self-awareness, the problem could be solvable, and we still would not understand how to solve it, or we still would not be able to solve it. So here, how do we understand ourselves? By understanding the structure of the brain. Okay, tons and tons of research has gone into the left brain and the right brain, what the left brain is capable of, what the right brain is capable of, how it works, and all of that. So very quick brain basics so that we have a an understanding of self-awareness, so that with self-awareness, we understand what is our natural tendency in decision making, and then we apply that decision making to problem solving. So for me, that completes the picture of strategic problem solving and decision making. Now, you're all aware that the left brain and the right brain, they are actual physical locations on your brain made of brain cells, and they have cognitive abilities of different capacity. Okay, so if I ask you to close your eyes and imagine a waterfalls, it's the right brain cells, okay, the cells in the right side of your brain that give you the ability to do this. So if I ask you to solve five taken 20 times, it's the left side of your brain in a specific location that has the cells to do this. And very simply, the more you do something, the more that part of the brain gets exercised, and the neurons work. They are kept active, and they are kept engaged, and therefore what you use you keep, what you don't use you lose. Okay, so this is very basic brain basics. Now, for all of us, we have one side of the brain in different areas that are dominant. So all of us are all of these things. All of us are free spirited, all of us are logical, all of us have feelings, all of us are realistic. We are all of these things. But in each of these, there's one side of the brain that is slightly more dominant. And this is by birth. Okay. Of course, over practice, over time, years and practice, we can learn, if you're naturally good at mathematics, you can still learn how to write poetry, or the other way around. Okay, so we can learn, but even within that, there is one side that is dominant over the other, and it's not always the right or always the left. It also sort of cross migrates. Okay, so you could be, when it comes to logic, your left brain could be dominant, but when it comes to poetry, it could be your right brain. So it could be both, and you could also have both. Right. So when we are approaching situation, if you are left brain dominant, you would have a linear approach. And if you are right brain dominant, you would have a holistic approach. Okay, so in problem solving, you could either have linear problem solving or holistic problem solving. A right brain dominant decision maker would want to do things step by step. First this, second this, third this step, fourth this step, and finally the conclusion. A holistic problem solver or a holistic right brain approacher would first like to know what is the big picture. So a big picture for the holistic person would look something like, we need to increase our sales. That would be the holistic person's approach. If the problem was that sales are not as usual, a linear approach to that would be something micro. We need to call more customers. Okay, so it could be as subtle as that. And this is simply a question you should ask yourself. Do I first look at the end result, at the complete result, or do I look at what is the first step? Right? So that is the linear versus the holistic approach. Next, we have, in the arena of doing, left brain dominant people are sequential. Right brain dominant people are random. It says random, but it's not really random. It is the opposite of sequential. The best way of knowing this, if you are sequential or random, is how does your desktop look? How does your browser look? Do you have multiple tabs all open at the same time? And so, you are looking this up and then you're looking something else up. You're toggling between one and the other. And that doesn't mean you're not doing something well. That is the way you work, and you're still producing results, right? So do you see that sometimes in your browser like Safari or Chrome, you have 10 tabs that are open? Okay, then you would be a random, uh, you would be right brain dominant because you're going from one to the other. If you're sequential, you would have a list of first this, second that, third this. And you have an understanding of how they are linked together in succession, very much like the linear. It's related to linear, but here it is one by one on the y-axis, one below the other, rather than one after the other, right? So sequential and random in doing. So which one are you? Do you have a random approach to problem solving, or a sequential or a linear approach to problem solving? Next, processing and performing. Now, this is very interesting, and this is useful in mathematical problems, useful in problems related to business, any kind of problems where you need to use symbols. So for example, symbols are nothing but numbers, letters, signs, anything that is symbolic. Okay, so you may look at calculating something by numbers, and if you are left brain dominant, you are quick at solving those problems. You are if you need to understand the relationship between income and expenditure, you will have a natural inclination towards that. If you are a concrete processor, okay, the numbers matter little to you, and you're more interested in the difference between the numbers. You're more interested in reducing expenditure and increasing profits rather than the actual numbers in itself. And if you are working in a team, there are two people who are, and some people are symbolic and the other person is concrete in their processing of a problem, then one person is looking at the actual numbers and another person is looking at the problem itself. And at the moment, I think, with coronavirus, this is extremely evident. Some people are so focused on the daily numbers, and some people are focused on the slightly bigger picture of where this is going to end. And both these problem solvers are still on the same page that they want to solve the problem, right? So which one are you? Are you more, you need the data, you need to look at reducing the numbers or increasing the numbers or whatever it is, whether it's profit loss, or are you concerned with the idea and with the concrete, actual, real life, non-numerical, non-symbolic aspect of things? Okay, so you can write that in the chat, and then we can look at it towards the end. Depending on your job, you may need to change your processing. Okay, so depending on what your job is or what you are doing, say for example, you're writing a math exam, you do need to work with symbols. Okay, so understanding this, that you may be a concrete processor, you may want to switch to symbolic, and then if you are symbolic, you may want to switch to concrete as the situation demands. Problem solving, and this is natural. You actually see this quite a bit with children. If you ask a child what is 10 minus 7, for example, or or if you give them a word problem, like there are 20 people coming to a party and each person needs two chocolates, or a simple problem like that. A child who is intuitive, who is right brain dominant, will just do something and come up with a number like definitely more than 10 or 20. They may even give you the correct number. A logical problem solver, a left brain dominant person, will use symbols and apply the logic and calculate and come with an answer. And both are correct. The person who has an intuitive problem solving approach and the logical problem solving approach, when they are mathematical or when they are, tame problems, or even or even the second category of problems here, analytically complex problems, logical people can absolutely thrive here. It is the intuitive, the right brain dominant intuitive problem solver who needs to develop logical problem solving through learning math or through learning some kind of sequence, learning data processing with numeracy, literacy, all of that. So the education system is actually based on this, and you can expand this to any level, and at no matter how big a project you are handling, you could be the leader of a country, these foundations still stay true, right? Logical and intuitive problem solvers. You will be surprised to know the accuracy of intuitive problem solving. Okay, people, they say, I have a good intuition, I know that this is the right answer, and they go for it, and they do have high rates of accuracy. Okay, scientists and neurologists are yet to figure what is that part of the brain that is responsible for intuition. How does it work? How, something that cannot be explained outside, because logical problems you can explain with symbols. Intuitive understanding, how can you explain that? This is a field of research, but if you are somebody who is intuitive about other people, who is intuitive towards problems and solutions, that is a wonderful skill, and scientists acknowledge that skill. They do apply intuition, and it is something that uh, the understanding is that the human brains, in the face of a problem, fight or flight, always develops neurons to survive. So either way, intuition is also an extremely important problem solving skill. How you develop intuition, it's actually a very difficult question to answer, and I don't believe it is possible. The water flows right to left, okay, in the brain. So it is easy to go from being right brain dominant to left brain dominant, and slightly difficult to go from left brain dominant to right brain dominant. Okay, which is why we see people who have right brain dominance achieve, excel both in liberal arts and in non-liberal logical subjects. Okay, so they are deeply connected, and actually the universe is deeply connected to the brain. Finally, looking at expressing within a problem situation, if you are left brain dominant, you could be clear about how you express. And then going back to this grid, when we are looking at communicatively complex problems and complex problems, it is imperative that you understand how to communicate both the problem and the solution, as well as to communicate to the indifferent relationships that exist within that group. Moving on to, yes, adaptation. So in a problem situation, adaptation, left brain dominant adaptation, have reality based problem solving adaptation, and right brain dominant people have fantasy based adaptation. This simply means this is not really about fantasy or reality. This simply means that left brain individuals have a greater tendency to live in the moment, or to understand the present situation. So for example, if there is a problem, say for example, we are all in lockdown, and this is a problem situation. Reality based approach, people with left brain dominance will accept the lockdown to a higher extent, and they will already be planning what to do in the lockdown. They are probably more comfortable with the lockdown situation. They understand the purpose of it. They understand the cause and effect to a slightly better degree than a fantasy-based adaptation. Fantasy-based adaptation or right brain dominant individuals will think about a time when the lockdown is not there far greater than those with reality-based adaptation. And this is important in problem solving because the more you are able to define the problem, the easier you will be able to solve the problem. So that is the simple relationship here. And a lot of neurologists, brain experts, or people who understand the capacity of the human brain, people in cognitive behavioral therapy, people in any kind of life coaching will tell you the water flows right to left. So if you are fantasy based with quick checks, it is quite easy to kind of come towards left. I'm very sorry. Next, we are looking at all of these together, linear, holistic, all the way to reality-based and fantasy-based. I'm very sorry, my phone is linked to my laptop, so it's actually my laptop ringing. Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. So I just want to say that you could be left brain dominant in approach such as linear, and you could be right brain dominant in approach such as fantasy based. So it does not mean that it is one below it is always left or always right. It could be a complete mix of left and right. Okay, and this further your natural way that you are can further either complicate a problem or can uncomplicate a problem. But at the base of it, awareness of this is important. In some situations, you do need reality-based adaptation. In some situation, you need creative problem solving, which is fantasy-based adaptation. A great example of this is the coronavirus adaptation right now requires reality-based adaptation. If you are in the field of, say, advertising and you need to create a campaign, you need creative problem solving, which requires fantasy-based adaptation. Okay, so just awareness of the fact that these two exist, they exist on a continuum, and to adapt the skills from one to the other is a good way of, is a great place to start, because with self-awareness, we can map the two together. Right. Now, in the chat, could you, looking at these, what do you think you are? Are you more left-brained? Are you more left-brain dominant, or are you more right-brain dominant? Right. Now, earlier on, we said the stress strategy. So what is the stress strategy? The stress strategy, we have done the first part, that is the self-awareness. Self-awareness in what spectrum? In these spectrums. In the spectrum of adaptation, expressing, problem solving, performing, doing, and approaching, the left and the right brain. So stress stands for self-awareness in these areas of problem solving, in taking the time to analyze the nature of the problem. Okay, nature of the problem, analyze it and recognize the situation. So analyze the problem, recognize the situation. What is the difference? The difference is analysis is related to the people in it. The situation is related to your interests and to the outcome. Okay, time to analyze the people who are there completely relates to the relationship that was on the x-axis. The situation is this an easy problem? Is this what are my self interests? That is on the that which was on the y-axis is to recognize the situation. E is explore consequences. Explore consequences simply means if we apply logical problem solving, where does that take us? If we apply creative problem solving, like in fantasy based problem solving, where does it take that? So exploring the consequences. It's basically pick and choose. S is for strategy check, and if required, S is for strategy switch. So let's go into each of these a little bit. The first one is self-awareness. We did the self-awareness bit a little bit deeper. We saw what is the brain's role in it, what is the role of adaptation in it. Can you go from left to right, can you go right to left? And the answer to all of that is yes. It starts with self-awareness, and then you adapt or you learn the skill of what is on the other side if required. If you are a logical person, for example, and the problem requires a logical solution, then you go with that. So self-awareness is the first S. Time to analyze. Time to analyze the people in it. Who are these people? What do they want? What do I want within my team? What does the team want? This is if everybody belongs to the same team. If there are two teams, who are the two different people? Who are the two different teams working together? What is the internal relationship between the two people? What does team A want? What does team B want? Who knows what? So you need to take the time to analyze all of this. Again, you have to see all of this together. They work in tandem. Right, multiple parties, each with only some of relevant knowledge, right? So this is a bit like when you may be a trainer. You don't know what your participants know or don't know. So taking time to analyze what they know by asking some basic questions could be an example of this. Understanding what the relationship between the participants is, or is there a relationship, could be an example of this. Analyzing, taking the time to analyze the people in that situation is the second step. And if you really notice, taking the time to analyze the people comes even before looking at the problem. So first is yourself, look at yourself, then look at the people or the teams or the various parties involved, and then the situation. Okay, and there is a reason for this. The reason is, if you can identify the problem, you can come up with the solution, you can do everything. And it may just not be the kind of, you may just not be working with the people or in a situation where the people are likely to implement your solution. So that is why analyzing the people will dictate how you define the problem. Is this a problem related to money? Is this a problem related to resources like time or number of employees? Or is it a problem related to behavior and motivation? So recognizing the situation comes after analyzing the people. What skills you use to analyze yourself? Like, am I left brain dominant or right brain dominant? General skills of observation, general skills of preferences. The same thing can also be applied to others. But be careful not to have misconceptions, because it often happens that what we actually see in others may simply not be true at all. Okay, so observe people, observe them, have an understanding of what they might be like when you are analyzing people. but don't jump into conclusions. Okay, you may see, for example, a person in that you're working with, and there is a problem situation. You may think a person arrives late all the time, and you may think that that person may not be motivated to work, but it may just not be the case. So analyze with by observation, but don't jump to conclusions. One of the best ways to get accurate information from people that you work with, especially people who have varying degrees of information or people who work with different agenda, they're all representing their own parties, is to ask questions. Asking questions like, so what is it that you want? What do you see the final product to be? What does the solution look like? So asking questions is one of the best ways to understand people, right? Recognizing situations. With the understanding of the people, you have then defined the problem. Without the understanding of the people, you have just defined the problems, and you're only going to think about it with the first three that you saw, with only as tame problems, and you will not, you may only look at analytically complex problems, cognitively complex problems, and tame problems. You may only approach problems with these, work on it, invest your time and energy a lot, and then realize that it's actually a communicatively complex problem, or it is a complex problem, or it's a conceptually contentious problem. So you may end up wasting time, resources, money, most importantly, time and money greatly with a narrow approach to problems, right? So
Yeah.
avoid, sorry?
Ranjita, sorry
Yes,
to intervene. I
yes,
feel the screen is stagnated or something. Could you please have a look at it, please? The slide.
sure. I am sharing the screen.
I could see the grid,
Yeah. What do you see now, Sophia?
just the grid about
Okay.
the problem and the solution. That is the increasing complexity of problems, increasing difficulty, not the left and the right brain, what you're talking about.
Oh, you did not see the whole left brain,
Yes,
right
yes,
brain?
yes, yes. So that's why I had to intervene now.
Okay. All of this was not seen.
Yes, from here it was not displayed actually. That's why I had to intervene.
This was not seen.
Yes,
I am very sorry. Can I continue now? Do you see
yes,
recognized situation?
yes, yes. Please proceed. Please proceed. Continue.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Sophia. Sorry about that. Problem. Great that we had a problem to analyze right now. Um, it's a live demo. You know, you can pretend that we did this on purpose to show you how we resolved it. We resolved it by communicating clearly. So, so coming back to recognizing the situation. So now, after you have understood the people, you uh, understand the problem. Tame problems, very simple. You know the problem, you know the solution. Then you know the problem, don't have the solution because of lack of resources, and then you apply skills of brainstorming, right? And brainstorming includes ideation, planning, all of the other things, right? And then when problem is not clear, so if problem is not clear, there's no way that a solution will be clear. This is the perfect way to describe people who believe that problems that should be under control, people believe that, okay, things will become okay. Okay, give it time, time will heal, you know, these kind of, we see this slightly and say like relationships and things like that, but definitely coronavirus, like established, is in that gamut of cognitively complex problems, right? E is for explore consequences. So very simply, what will happen if we increase communication between the team? Okay, if it is a communicative problem, what will happen if we ask for more money from stakeholders? What if we do that? What if we do that? So you are exploring the consequences of the different resources, different problems that sorry, different solutions. You're not implementing them, you are exploring them by asking what if questions, right? So and that is what E stands for. And the reason is you don't fall into something called the first idea trap. You need to explore the consequences, explore all possible solutions before you go with the best possible solution, right? And here we look at so many different things. We look at brainstorming, we look at starting to communicate, we look at rolling back and asking the questions once again. We look at a little bit of, okay, I see it this way, you see it that way, a lot of talking back and forth and all of that. And it could also be within yourself. If it is, a problem that you're solving within yourself, then you ask, does this need more time? Does this need more money? Does it need more communication? Does it need me to understand something, or does it need me to learn something? So exploring the consequences mentally, and if required, by writing it down, making tables. I will also mention that a little bit later on, is the next step. After that, you choose which one is your is the safest bet. Maybe you shortlist to 3. In 3, you apply 1. And this stage is called the strategy check, right? So strategy check is you implement the problem, the solution that you think is best, and check if it works. And that is exactly what they are doing with the pandemic right now. Small level of testing, and then a slightly bigger group. They're checking it. If something doesn't work, they switch the strategy. And I think at the moment, Chennai has gone back into lockdown, which is a classic strategy switch. They went from unlock to lockdown. So STRESS, self-awareness, time to analyze, recognize situations, explore consequences, strategy check, and then strategy switch back and forth until what you think is the ideal situation, which is going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Your needs are met, your physiological needs, your needs for safety, love and belonging, success, self-actualization, they are all met. So solving the problem with stress is the recommended practice. Now, let's just go a little bit into some of the theories that exist. So the first theory that exists, that's widely popular, that several people have spoken about, is the 5 whys. This is related to root cause analysis. Okay. The latest in understanding problems is the grid that I shared with you, people and problems and relationships and complexities. But before that, within an organization, within yourself, not complex, but not very wicked problems, but problems that every organization faces, was the 5 whys problem proposed by Sakichi Toyoda from Toyota Motors. So the 5 whys means you just ask why. So for example, there is a new system that everybody in the organization should upload, should start using. The problem is people are not using it. Why aren't they using it? They don't understand how to use it. So why don't they understand how to use it? They were not told how to use it. Why weren't they told? Because the manager knew that it was simple enough that everybody would would understand and start using it. So within about 2 or 3 whys, you come to that point where the problem originated, and then you solve that. So this is the 5 whys. This is widely accepted. If you are a student, if you are, if you look at aptitude tests, root cause analysis, the 5 whys is up there. It's a common technique. The second, affinity diagrams and mind maps. Affinity diagrams, again, if you are right brain dominant, you may find this very interesting. Affinity diagrams are, how are things related to each other? Are they related? Do one come under the other, or do they go side by side? So, maybe all uh, facts and all problems related to money are put under one group. So you're basically drawing diagrams and mind maps and grouping things together. Almost all strategists, managers, planners use drawings, doodles, diagrams, connections, dotted lines, straight lines, underlined, circled. All of these are bracketed together and called affinity diagrams. And a lot of corporate trainers, researchers do accept the validity of affinity diagrams. Okay, more than writing a great report, your mind working by connecting physical diagrams together, showing relationships, and these are completely rough notes, are great problem solving tools and strategies, because this is an indication of the working mind. By actually drawing um, little mind maps, you are entering a mindset of problem solving. You are triggering the parts of your brain, the left brain and the right brain, responsible for problem solving. So affinity diagrams. You can, of course, look up some standard affinity diagram templates and apply this, but you know your situation, you know the people you work with, and you know the resources you work with. So you create your own affinity diagrams. And then, of course, mind maps. They are closely related. The difference between an affinity diagram and mind map is, in an affinity diagram, affinity means closeness. Everything related to one part of the problem is chalked down together. A mind map is more for ideation and brainstorming. Affinity diagram is more for problem solving. Then deductive and inductive reasoning. So here, these are simple, tried and tested root cause sort of situations, chalking them down. So deductive is, you gather the facts, then come to a conclusion, right? You have all pieces of facts to come to a conclusion to identify the problem. And inductive is, you see a pattern and you declare it's a problem. Okay, so for example, again, COVID, because we're talking about problems, problem solving, and that is a problem that affects everybody. You can see how inductive was applied in COVID. They did not wait for the whole world to get this problem before they went under lockdown. They saw a pattern, they identified a pattern, and immediately tried to solve it by lockdown. That is inductive. Deductive would have been, deductive is a case of, let's say, somebody goes to the hospital for something else, like their tooth hurts and they go, and a dentist diagnoses, sees what the problem is and gives treatment according to that. So that would be deductive. Collects the facts and then applies treatment. Inductive problem solving would be pattern checking and scaling and applying the problem to there, right? So whenever large quantities of data, people, money, budget, anything that has more than one a piece in the puzzle, inductive reasoning and problem solving saves time and energy. Right. Now, a slightly complicated, we're not going to go in depth, but if you are interested, you can look this up. This is called soft system methodology. This is an entire workshop in itself, soft system methodology. And this integrates both, say, technology's real life uh, adaptation with human life, as well as within an organization, within an existing system, or within any kind of ecosystem. It could be a workplace, it could be a community, it could be a school, it could be absolutely anything. So there is real world and systems world. System is very simply, what are the elements that exist, who are the players, who are the people, who are the resources, what is the technology. It could be absolutely things that exist, and the relationship between things. So things and the relationship between things is nothing is called a system. So in the ecosystem, there are plants and there are animals, and there are natural elements like air, water, wind, earth, mud, all of that. And what is the relationship? The relationship is plants and animals need air to breathe. So that is a system. Just before we get into soft system, just to understand what a system is. A system is things and relationship between things that exist together. So soft system methodology is first the problem situation unstructured. You will see that there are lots of overlaps with the very wicked problem model and the soft system model. They are overlaps, but then this is the 21st century, and time again, people have researched this, and each one comes up with systems to solve. And I thought I will share this with you, because if something resonates with person A, something else may resonate with person B. So in that interest, let's very quickly look at the nature of SSM, or soft system methodology. Number one, the problem situation unstructured, right? So we don't know what the problem is, and this would be a good place to use the very wicked problem, a very wicked problem grid. So structure the problem. So there is a problem, something has gone wrong, you don't know what it is. So the second step is the problem situation expressed. So it could be sales are falling for a particular company over 6 months. That's a problem. It could be children are falling sick. Second problem. It could be grades could be dropping. Okay. It could be something like your DTH sort of television is competing with online viewing platforms, right? Streaming platforms. So it is unstructured. The problem situation is unstructured. It looks like chaos. The first, a problem is never going to hold a placard and say, this is the problem, now solve it. It always starts looking like chaos. So the first step there is the problem situation expressed. Expressed simply means it's written down, as well as it has real life consequences, which means people are unhappy in some way. Results as expected is not being seen. So the real problem situation, in the real world, the problem situation is expressed. So from chaos to actual something visible comes root definition of relevant systems. So here, once again, in the systems world, what are the different things? What is the role of the different people within this system? So if you take the, let's say there's a school and the students are not behaving well, grades are falling, the school is gaining a bad reputation. This is the problem. In the systems world, in number 3, root definition of relevant systems would mean asking, what is the principal doing? What are the teachers doing? Are the environments, that is, are the classrooms comfortable enough? Are there relevant course books? Are there relevant qualified teachers? So root definition of relevant systems. What is each person doing? What are the different things within the system doing? Defining it, and then conceptual models. Conceptual models means what should the teacher be doing in this example of the school not performing well. Conceptually, what should they be doing? What should the principal be doing? What should, is it that the building is really old and would students feel better if they got a new play area? So what is the ideal conceptual model? What does it look like? That breaks into formal concepts, formal systems concept and other systems thinking. So formal systems concept is just, how every school, it repaints its walls. Other systems could be something extra outside the system coming in. Okay, so it could be defining some desirable models of the different elements that exist within the system. Then, once this is done, comparison of step 4 with step 2. Very simply, this means if we get the best teachers, will our students improve? Will the reputation of the school improve? Will the school become popular again? So comparing 4 with the problem, seeing if we give teacher training, will the school improve? If we paint the school walls, will the school improve? If we change our textbooks, will the school's grade performance improve? So comparing these two. After that comes feasible and desirable changes. Okay, is it easy to change textbooks in this situation? Maybe. Yes, great. Is it easy to train teachers? Not so much, because they may be really experienced. They may not respond well to training. They may just, training may not have been effective in the past. So feasible and desirable changes identified. Okay. Then actions to improve the problem situation. Once you have identified the desirable changes that are feasible also, you implement these actions. And that is I know it closes like you once again go to the problem situation, but that's because it's within that system of always identifying problems and always trying to improve. But then it ends with number 7. Right, number 7 is you implement actions to improve the problem situation. That means train your teachers if it's feasible, change your textbooks if it's feasible, paint your school walls if it's feasible, get a new playground if it's feasible. You do these things, but you follow this. From chaos, go to seeing the consequences, then understanding the role of the different people or the different systems. What should the systems be like? If the systems are like this, will the problem be solved? And then, are these actions feasible? If they are, do it. That is the logical ordering. The limitation for me with this, with Peter Checklin's SSM, is that the strategy check and strategy switch, it may be complicated, right? So, but then again, in problem solving, this is an essential SSM that is required. Theory of this, knowledge of this may help you come up with your own affinity diagrams with your own problem solving unique niche. Now here I've just put STAR just as a side note for myself. A very simple, if you work with young people and they and if you have children, or you work with children, you may want to teach them situation, target, action, result, which is a very simple breakdown of the SSM. So STAR approach: situation, target, action, result. What is the problem situation? What is the target that you want to achieve? What actions do you want to take to achieve that? And what will it result in? So if you have children or if you work with children, teach them this approach to problem solving, STAR. Right. Now, after that super scientific, technical sort of approach to problem solving, this is the appreciative inquiry of problem solving, which is a bit lofty. It is a bit, um, you know, slightly more dreamy and should appeal more to the right brain dominant people, where they follow the 4D approach. The 4D approach is to dream, to design, to discover, to dream, to design, and the final destiny, right? At the end of it, at the bottom of it, is the positive core. And there is a connection between that intuitive problem solving. If you have a natural intuition towards problem solving and you have applied intuition to solve your problems, to engage that more or to develop that more, you may want to look at appreciative inquiry. Okay, appreciative inquiry, first off, what is the discovery, right? What gives life? There is a moment of insight. Okay, here you start with defining the ideal. Okay, you define the ideal situation. For COVID, the discovery would be of a vaccine. Though you start off by saying tomorrow a person comes and gives us a vaccine. The dream is, once again, this is brain training a little bit. You then visualize what the world will look like. People will go out and markets will open, trade will flourish, and construction will restart. Everything will boom. People will travel, go on vacations, go to the beach, all of these things. Okay. Then you design that situation. Okay, so here this is for people to go to the beach. What must be done? And in fact, we are seeing this, when people give you guidelines, on wear a mask, hold distance, this is all the design part of appreciative inquiry. And you see this already. Some people are calling this, the new normal. They come from this kind of a mindset, an appreciative inquiry. They design their lifestyle like this. Restaurants are designing for this current situation, which is a type of problem solving, appreciative inquiry. What should be the ideal? Okay, so systems develop in the direction of questions we ask, right, to problem solve. And finally, destiny is empower, learn, adjust, and do. Right. So at the moment, this is what is happening. Appreciative inquiry. There is a level of acceptance. People are working, say, on a vaccine. When appreciative inquiry, when it came about, it was too lofty. It was considered creative problem solving. But to be honest, the whole world at the moment is approaching the problem as an appreciative inquiry. Okay, so which means adaptation to the current situation requires us to flex some of our right brain muscle. We require some kind of imagination, dream, designing, ensuring that we have this. A lot of people actually do say, I don't believe it, what is happening. This has never happened before. There is that dream world sort of unreality, fantasy kind of imagination in people. They have that feeling. That part of their brain is triggered at the moment. Right. Within this system, you empower, learn, adjust, and do. You function within this appreciative inquiry of problem solving. Incidentally, this is part of coaching for people who have to manage chronic conditions, people who have to live with certain lifelong problems. So, this is a little bit like looking at the broader picture. This is little bit. This is definitely something that goes beyond just analytical problem solving. This is something that is a bit more at the level of functioning. Once again, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the topmost level, at the level of self-actualization. At the core of all of this is the positive core. And the positive core simply means that uh, you have the ability to relax, you have the ability to concentrate, and you have the ability to take calculated risks, right? So how do you measure if something is positive? These are your three checkpoints. Can you relax? Can you concentrate? And can you take calculated risks? So recently there was, some bad news in the in the papers about mental health, and we see this time and again, problems where people are not going out and reaching out to people. And this may be a good check. I'd like to mention this here because I work with people who often face this. So how do you know if there is a problem and you're not able to identify it? Always ask yourself these questions. If you notice that you're not able to concentrate, you must look at what is going on. If you identify that you're not able to relax, you must look at what is going on. Remember, if you're not able to relax because you are busy concentrating, that is not a problem. That is just time management. If you have the time but you have anxiety and you're not able to relax, that is a problem. And then finally, if you are not able to take calculated risks, or taking a risk just makes you nervous and it makes you really melt, weak at the knees, then it could be you may want to investigate a little bit more or reach out, right? So positive core, at the bottom of it is all of this. All of this comes under the gamut of appreciative inquiry. And all of this is for self-actualization in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you see a connection between all these things, maybe you want to leave a comment in the chat, or if you have any more questions, if there is something that you want me to talk about a little bit more, you can let me know that. In about 8 minutes, we'll start. Sophia or Crystal will put all your questions together and ask questions, and we will answer them. Right. Now, when we solve problems and when we apply strategies, they still can fail. What are some things that make our decisions fail, right? What are the things that let us down? Right on top, it could be human error. And this is the easiest to solve, right? Identify the human error and correct it, especially with numbers, especially with miscalculations, time, or some kind of human error. So in scientific problem solving, when it doesn't work, the reason could be human error. Second would be poor control. Okay, lack of autonomy, lack of once again, the biggest problem right now that the world is facing, systems can be in place, but there is poor control. People in control may not have full extent of control. Next could be failure to define need. This is, I mentioned this in the past. You could be approaching something as a tame problem or a cognitive problem, where it could actually be a communicative problem. Failure to define need. You could be solving something and then realize that it's probably not, it doesn't work in your benefit. Lack of system, right? Absolutely, lack of system. Sometimes there may be a problem and you realize that it's because there is no person or there is nothing to manage this. There was a very interesting business study that I came across, and this person's attitude towards business is that always have a couple of people who are trained in everything, and they are sort of like your extras. Okay, so they don't work every day, but the minute you need them to, they are there. There is that additional extra help or additional extra trained people that are always there, right? So in the context of a school, functioning of a school, this could be like a substitute teacher who comes in from outside to take this on, somebody who's always there on standby. One of the reasons why you could have a beautiful plan, beautiful everything, could be the lack of a person to implement it. And that, in other words, is lack of system, right? When we talk about at a global level, when we talk about pollution, which is a big problem, right? The problem is not that we will have dirty oceans. The problem is that in future, oceans or clean water may not exist, and that will be a lack of a system. Okay, if a water system doesn't exist, then all other systems will collapse. So think of systems as something integral within a greater organism, like a greater community or a larger system. Next, ill-defined measurement. Okay, ill-defined measurement is, especially related to accounts, especially related to resources, budgets, all of that. Your, again, you may think that you've put in 8 hours of work, so you'll get 8 hours of productivity, is an ill-defined measurement. So there are clear ways of defining how much output can be expected, or how much of a problem can be solved, but then they could be ill-defined. Say, for example, we see this in areas like real estate, for example. It could be artificially inflated. So when a system collapses, when there is a bubble and it collapses because of an ill-defined measurement, because something was arbitrary, like the area, the cost of a land, because it was ill-defined, you may not have adequate insurance for it, right? So that could cause failure. Inadequate planning, very clear. But then also requires measuring, also requires to be mentioned that inadequate planning before implementing can be a cause for failure when scientific problem solving is applied. And over and beyond all of this, there could be other factors that are unidentifiable, right? Like a total shutdown or a global shutdown in some case, or something just simply doesn't exist, or anything outside this. So problem solving also requires us to acknowledge that even with the application of scientific problems, there could be failures, and these failures can also, factors that cause failure can also be defined and pinpointed, and perhaps switch check strategy and switch strategy can still be applied. Right. Very quickly, just a grid. I will take about 2-3 minutes to look at this, and then we will take questions. If you are if you have high expertise and low expertise, and you are working with yourself, if the problem is clear and your expertise is low, very simply have an open mind. Look outside your group for solutions. You may consult outside. Be open-minded, like I mentioned, and yes, get consultation. If your expertise is high and the problem is clear, just apply the known and accepted ways of resolving the problem. Clear guidelines exist. So this is a simple thing, like you have a cavity in your tooth. You just go to the dentist, get an appointment, get it filled, and that's it. So clear guidelines exist. For 2-3 days, eat ice cream, don't chew on that side. It's clear. So expertise is high, problem is clear. You're just following that. People know what they're doing, methods are tried and tested. So that's a great gamut to be in. If your expertise is high and your problem is unclear, your style may be a combination between consultative and facilitative. This means that you need external help, but you also need to apply your own expertise in it. Okay, so here I'm directly talking to the professional, perhaps a leader, perhaps somebody who works in problem solving, troubleshooting, and all of that. If your expertise is high and the problem is not clear, capture the views of people, ask around, ask what people think, do what you think should be done. Quiet experts are encouraged to air their opinions. If you see a problem in your work context, you may want to talk about, share your problems. If you have, if you see somebody in a trouble, you may want to express. So quiet experts, especially SMEs, you may want to talk about your opinions in this. If your expertise is high and the problem is unclear, this may be very interesting. So you can consolidate all your opinions here, all expert opinions here, and arrive at a solution. Even if there are conflicting views, you can manage them, and you may need assertive communication here. When a lot of experts are working, you may want to use some inductive problem solving. You may notice pattern, implement solutions, have some strategies in place. We have looked at when problem is clear and expertise is high. We have looked at when problem is clear but expertise is low. So this means go seek help. That's all it is. Problem is clear, go seek help. That's it. When expertise is low, be open-minded, go seek help. And when expertise is low and problem is unclear, you have to get into the learning mindset. The learning curve is steep. Cross-functional teams are common, right? Especially with mergers, with people moving from platform A to B, some kind of a migrations. Members need to acquire new skills. Team member and leader may need outside support once again. So consultative kind of, it takes a bit longer to adapt. People may feel inadequate and others more confident. This always happens when expertise is different within a team. We are always dealing with people with different levels of competence. Some people understand everything and respond immediately and they do what is necessary. You are on the same page as them, and others are a little bit slower on the uptake. So that requires patience. And if you are a leader, you need to manage this effectively. Leaders have to coach, encourage, and facilitate, and many opportunities to encourage team members and gain new skills and knowledge. So here you are learning, here you are consulting, here you are just applying what you know, and here you are brainstorming together, coming together, and defining the solution. So with that, I say thank you, and we can take some questions now.
Yeah, Ranjita. The first question is by Anonymous. To manage myself and my team effectively and productively. Okay, they're meaning to say, how do I do this? That was an abrupt stop. So you get the question, right?
Yes. So I'm going to talk about managing teams. So whenever you want to manage or do anything, first is awareness. What is my natural style? Who are the people? That is the systems. What is their natural style? What natural style is needed in this situation? Can we apply it? Right? So it's all about defining, understanding, and applying. Yes, Sophia?
Yeah. The next one is also by Anonymous. How to handle any angry client?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. Angry client. I would just like to go back to this slide. I would just like to go back to this because an angry client comes under here. Okay, an angry client, definitely multiple parties. Okay, however, you and your client, it should be understood that your goal is the same, because you are giving a service or a product and your client wants that product or that service. So you are on the same page. You are either dealing with a communicatively complex problem, you are dealing with a complex problem, or a conceptually contentious problem. The problem here is an angry client does not have the required knowledge. So in this situation, I believe you should write down all the pieces of information that your client would appreciate in this, would like to know. By pieces of information, it depends on the it depends on the level of your client. Is he or she a very senior person? How much time do they have? What sort of attention will they give to you? Give them all the facts. It is possible that the client is angry because of a lack of knowledge. Okay, that's the first thing. If it's a communicatively complex problem, that means you know the problem and the solution is clear and you just have to communicate it. This means you need to get help to write down a clear email or write down in a table all the pieces of information that the client wants. If the problem is clear but the solution is not clear, clearly define the problem once again in written language and go looking at that expertise, that last slide. You may either want to consult with a subject matter expert on the technical problem, or if you yourself are that subject matter expert, give possible solutions. If neither the problem nor the solution is clear, then you need to sit down at a table and ask each person, what is the problem, what is the desired solution. You need to apply the systems, soft systems methodology. This methodology, you need to follow this within the systems. So it's one or the other between all of this. Next, Sophia.
Yeah. Next question is by Sandhya. How to manage an employee who wasn't doing work? I don't know how to solve this problem. Is there any tips where I can use to have a win-win solution?
Absolutely. Okay. Now, one of the best ways to get performance is direct communication. Okay. Direct, polite communication. Right. Now, I uh, so I part of my job is to have very difficult conversations with people, getting people to do things that they are supposed to do. And before starting the conversation, I signpost. I start off by saying, first, I want to express what I want to say. I would like the opportunity to complete what I'm saying. And then at the end of it, I would like to listen to you. You know, with a calm voice, I first say this much. This is sort of like a standard template before a difficult conversation. Okay, I say this. And I also say it could be that I have misjudged the situation and I'm completely okay if I have. However, let me first express. So with this sort of statutory warning, I get into the conversation. It is very important that you physically remain calm and collected and composed while saying this, and you use polite language. It is also important, if you can, perhaps a piece, perhaps an extract from their email that is poorly written, writing that and saying why it is not to standard. Is it because it was sent too late? Is it because it was not professionally worded? Is it because it was incomplete? And because it was incomplete, what was the result of it? What was the professional result of it? With evidence, with what it should have been, and therefore because it was not what it should have been, what is the consequence? With evidence, I would calmly present it And I would carry with me a solution. Just highlighting a problem in a difficult conversation may not help. Always going with a solution helps. And going the solution not as an imposition, but as a recommendation that they can apply in order to solve the problem. This is one of the most common features. Okay, when people are hired, they are, you know, very often, at least once a day, I hear this question: how did this person get this job? Okay, the level of incompetence is not unique to anybody. It exists everywhere. The strategy for it is clear signposting, clearly saying this is what I want to say and I could be wrong, uh, correct me later. And evidence what it should have been and what was the consequence. You need to have this difficult conversation. The first time you have it with a person is tricky, but then when you do it once and you do it again, you develop some sense of comfort with it. Okay, if the person is senior, then it is slightly more complicated, it is slightly difficult, but you still somehow need to have such difficult conversations. Even then, only the first time is difficult. As you do it again and again and you break that ice, it becomes easier. Next, Sophia.
Yeah. This is by Anonymous. What are the traits of effective decision makers and problem solvers?
The traits of an effective decision maker. Excellent question. I think the trait of an effective decision maker is somebody who remains calm. Okay, this doesn't mean they don't care. This means they are not hyped up and they are not in a hurry to implement a solution, but they are calm enough to sit down with a cup of tea or coffee to say, let's figure this problem out. So the first trait for me is that calmness. Okay, they're not hot-headed or they are not haughty and they're not desperate for the solution. Of course they are desperate, but they have the control over them. So was the question traits and characteristics?
Uh, Traits of effective decision makers. Yeah.
Yes, traits. So the first trait is definitely being calm. The second trait is confidence. Okay, um, confidence, of course, is built over time, but effective decision makers are confident individuals. They are not aggressive, they are not overconfident, but they are confident. By confident, it means that they are aware of their strengths and weaknesses, and they are happy with their strengths and they are working on their weaknesses. They are confident in being able to use their words, in being able to use their body language, in being able to have these difficult conversations. They are calm and confident. So if you are calm and if you are confident, I believe you can take clear decisions. You can take effective decisions, because a calm mind, you are in the uh, strategic mindset. With a calm mind, a confident person, you can communicate easily. So these for me are the top two traits for any performance. Next.
Yeah. This is like a counter question from the same person, I guess. It's from Anonymous. What can prevent effective decision making?
Yes, effective decision making. The biggest factor is badly defined problems. So you could forget that you're dealing with other people who have different relationships amongst themselves. So you could only be thinking about the problem and not about the people involved. So the biggest problem with problem solving is that the problem is not defined clearly. The people involved in the problem are not defined clearly. So that is the biggest. The second is lack of resources. There are problems for which you need more money, and not a little bit more, a lot more money. There are problems for which you need a lot more time. You need a lot more people. So lack of understanding and lack of resources, two of the biggest uh, reasons why problems are not easy to solve. Just imagine if we had all the money, had all the time, and had all the people, we would not have 90% of the problems in organizations. Yes, next, please.
Yeah. The next is by Anonymous. How do I determine what the problem is actually?
Yes, you have to stress like self-awareness. So for you, what the problem is may not be what the problem is for the others. So what the problem is means it is not a situation that is ideal. Who are the stakeholders? You, your team, your organization, your clients, your or the community. Somebody, more than one person, somewhere or some means is not functioning smoothly. A to B is not clear, B to C is not clear, A to C is not clear. There is something wrong somewhere. That is the definition of a problem. So a simple thing could be traveling from Bangalore to Delhi. Let me just take an example. I need to go from my house to the airport, from the airport, catch a flight, from the flight, take a taxi and go to the hotel. This is the this is my task to achieve. This is a very simple situation. A problem is when I can go from my house to the airport, but I miss the flight. That is a problem. I can go from my house to the airport, but the flight is delayed. That is a problem. The flight is on time, the landing is okay, but for some reason, the airport is shut down. So in a system at any stage with the processes or with the different people involved, when something is not as it should have been, that is a problem. That is how you identify that it is a problem.
All right. This question is by Rohit. How can I find out whether I am a right or left brain dominant person?
There are tests on Google. There are simple tests. One of the tests could be like, if there is like you need to build something and the instructions are given. Do you start doing it without even looking at the instructions because you've seen the box and you have a vague idea of what the final product should look like? Or are you the person who first opens the leaflet and you first check if everything is there and then do that? That is one way. So general behavior, observing general behavior, being aware of your uh, inclination and general tendency to do a task is one of the best ways. The second is you can actually take some inventories online. There are quizzes online. Just look at, just research, am I left brained or right brained quiz. It's very interesting to know that. Next, please.
Yeah. This is by Anonymous. Does the person need to be creative enough in problem solving other than being analytic?
It completely depends on the nature of the problem. Okay. It some tried, like, if you have a cavity in your tooth, you don't need to have creative problem solving because these are tried and tested problems, and you just apply what is there. However, if the problem is vague and then the solution, if the problem is vague, the solution is not clear, then you definitely need creative problem solving, right? A simple example is at a domestic level. Parents do all kinds of fancy things to get their children to eat, especially fussy eaters. They shape their food in different ways, and then they put some colors and decorate or buy some fancy, mugs or cups, or that's an example of creative problem solving, right? Creative problem solving is pretty much everywhere. Like I believe when they made genes for people who work in mines. They had lots of pockets for tools. So that is creative problem solving. So you actually create something to solve an existing problem. So if that is the nature of the problem, then you cannot apply numbers and analytics and solve that problem. You need to design and build and then solve problem creatively. If it is a problem with numbers, then you can't use creative problem solving. You have to use some bit of analysis, some analytical, logical approaches to solve some problems. So it depends on the nature of the problem.
Okay. This is by Anonymous. Can the problem be seen as an opportunity? If so, could you please enumerate with an example, please?
Okay. Can a problem be seen as an opportunity? Um, I believe there are people who do see that. Okay. Um, in a professional environment, right? A problem is definitely not looked at as an opportunity for something bigger. The straight solution, the straight approach to a problem is let's solve this. That said, some problems have become opportunities. We see this with, say, people who have some kind of chronic illnesses. They become champions for that cause, right? So they see an opportunity within their problem, right? So, say, for example, uh, uh, recently there was Malala, right? She graduated from Oxford. She was in a big problem, but her problem became an opportunity for her. It is definitely a mindset, okay? It is definitely, there is some truth to the fact that problems can become opportunities. But an organization has, while it may encourage that attitude that problems can become opportunities, it is detrimental to business because it cannot create opportunities based on problems. At an organizational level, opportunities have to be created by design, by willing design that they have control over. But if you have that mindset, that is wonderful. To have that uh, problems are opportunities mindset is really wonderful. And I do believe some people have that. I'm sure there is a business example where a company used an opportunity to, used a problem as an opportunity, but at the moment, nothing comes to mind. But I'm sure if it does, I'll try to explain it. Yes?
Yeah. This is by Anonymous. While in problem solving as a team, after having gathered the solutions, how to choose the solution, as there would be pros and cons for each solution?
When choosing anything at an organizational level, three basic questions: time, money, people. Do you have the time for it? Do you have the money for it? Do you have the people for it? Okay. Often, time and money keep competing with each other. So, feasibility is that word. So, choose the solution that costs least, that costs the least amount of time, and that you have the expertise for. So, you have organizations say this is a 5-star solution, 4-star solution, 3-star solution. So it is graded on this scale: time, people, money. Time, money, people. So in this way, your even with a mistake that organizations make, or people when they are in the problem solving mindset make, is one of, when they get the budget, they don't negotiate enough, or they overestimate their own team's performance speed. Okay, so always make sure in problem solving you take adequate time on your side. You take adequate time to solve the problem, to test, to recheck, and to do it. Also, um, of course, you can't implement solution 1 and then roll back and implement solution 2. Here, inductive reasoning, where if you see that there are cracks showing up, you need to start stepping back and looking at something else. So that kind of flexibility to start and then to sort of go back and then make a few more changes, that inductive reasoning, looking for patterns before you have concrete proof of everything, is important. Okay, just like when it comes to health, just as how they say, the sooner you catch it, the higher uh, you know the higher probability of curing something. The same applies even with problem solving. Keep identifying cracks, and it's pretty much like when the solution is being rolled out, every step of that solution is monitored and doctored and cross-checked and then continued. Yes, next.
Yeah. This is by Anonymous. How can I make my team develop problem-solving skills?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Maybe you can leave your contact number with EduMaker. We can conduct trainings, but as a team manager, okay, your quick takeaway should be the 2 grids that I shared: the x-axis, that is people within a situation, and the problem and lack of solution, or clear or unclear solution. So immediate should be that, and the expertise, and the problem is clear, problem is unclear. These 2 grids. This is a 1-hour meeting that you have to have with your team. Gather your team up in the conference room. Start by saying, here's 2 things that I want to just talk to you about. And let me first talk to you. Let's then see if this is something that we can apply within our own systems, and present these 2 grids to them. The first grid, this is called very wicked problems. Okay, so if you want to Google it, it's called very wicked problems. For lack of a better word, this is an actual consulting business term, very wicked problems. And the other is called problem solving window. Problem solving window is, when should you seek a consultant's help? When should you not seek a consultant's help? When should you have brainstorming with other expertise? And when should you follow guidelines that are already prescribed? So that is the problem solving window and the very wicked problems grid. 2 things. Could be a wonderful session within your team, but of course you can always reach out to EduMaker, and we are happy to deliver an all team session customized to the business that you are in, and that could be a wonderful foundation for problem solving. And all organizations, no matter what you're selling or what you're working towards, they need these skills. They need an understanding of themselves and the nature of problems. Yes?
Yeah. This is by Anonymous. Is there different strategy to handle problems from people above us and different for people reporting to us?
I would say ideally not. I think we should look for an environment where such differentiation is simply because of age, that people have entered the workforce at different ages, and that's why they are in different stages, and we have the same strategies for all. That said, the reality is, yes, there is. Because with the person reporting to you, you can use the words, in my experience, when I faced a similar problem, I implemented this solution, and you offer the solution. Okay, so just because you are this person's senior and they report to you, you have the luxury of saying, I have experienced this problem and this is a tried and tested solution. Please apply it. To somebody who is senior, the words have to be slightly changed to, I have identified this problem and I have come up with a solution. I would like to present both to you and have your opinion on it. So yes, to answer the question, in reality, that is the reality. But of course, the idealistic approach would be we talk to everybody using the same words. Next, please.
Yeah, this is by Anonymous. Could you please share your view on taking a break from a task to do something else which can help improve decision making?
Crystal, would you mind just reading the question once again?
Yeah, I don't mind. Could you please share your view on taking a break from a task to do something else which can help improve decision making?
Wonderful. There are two things that I have started doing because a lot of my work right now is online. Okay. So the first thing that I do is I have a pot next to my screen. Every 20 minutes, I have sort of set a recurring alarm. I had to do this for 2 days and now I'm used to it. Every 20 minutes, I look at the pot, I look at the leaves, and this is simply a visual exercise. And that has actually relaxed me a little bit. Okay. The second that I do is I actually don't work on the decision as soon as I know I have to take a decision. Okay. I allow an entire 24 hours to pass by doing regular work like cooking or just regular other activities, because the back of my mind, I still know I have to take this decision. I still know what I am doing this. And this is a big difference. Okay. Because at the start or earlier on in my career, I would be in a rush to take that decision. But with time, I have understood, um, putting something in the back of my mind. I have kind of uh, done this by just allowing something to mull itself in the back of the mind and then approaching it, because there is something called insight. Insight is a moment where your brain actually gives you the ideal solution. It is a 24-hour cycle because physiologically you've had a cycle of sleep, a cycle of eating, a cycle of digestion, everything. So you are better capable of taking decisions. So I would allow one entire day, ideally, if possible, a day off from work to take crucial decisions. And these decisions are often communicative decisions. Once you know what you want to take, you're also thinking about the words with which you will communicate this decision to the people in it. So I would say, instead of a little task like a Sudoku on the side or a little crossword or some kind of a game, I would use a 24-hour for crucial decisions. Yes, next.
This is by Anonymous. What's your thoughts between issues and problems? Are they different, or one is a subset of the other, or do they have a relation?
Issues and problems. I believe issues are slightly deep seated, at least in conventional jargon that we speak. When we say issues, we probably think about something that is long pending, something that does not have a straightforward answer, and probably something that is an existing condition, right? So a simple thing could be the nature of somebody's skin. It could be skin issues, for example, right? So a problem, I believe, is something that did not exist but existed in something that was otherwise smooth. So problem could be something that cropped up, whereas I believe issues were something in the nature of things in itself. In regular communication, they are often interchanged. In business or in management skills, management consultancies, when we are sort of applying strategic thought, we don't really call them issues. because there is an understanding that issues have deeper, they probably go back to childhood, they probably go back to how something was from the beginning of time, rather than something that cropped up. So we don't have issue solving, but rather problem solving. So in an otherwise uniform, smooth way, there is a bug, there is a problem. That is a problem. Issues are, we may not even have control over issues.
Okay, this is a question by Krish. Does a person always need an analytical skills for problem solving? I am seeing this in my many job descriptions for leadership positions. What is that they are expecting?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. This is exactly what they are expecting. Okay, analytical problem solving means the ability to sit down and put something on an x-axis, put something on a y-axis, to put down there is an individual, there is a team, there is an organization, what is the connection, what is this, basically asking questions, establishing relationships, establishing the role of each cog in the wheel, the role of each system within an ecosystem. This is the analytical mindset, the ability to sit down and put them all on a piece of paper, on either a mind map and all of that. How do you demonstrate this? You can demonstrate this very simply by saying, by looking back in your own professional experience so far. When there was a problem, did you sit down and did you think about the person? Did you think about their role in the problem or their role in the solution? Did you think about the resources? Did you account for the time? Did you account for the budget? Did you account for the people? So if you have done this and if you have put them as little notes or something, that means you have an analytical mindset. I believe there are tests that check how analytical you are, but essentially this is what it means. You can talk about doing a little bit of research into soft systems methodology is a great way. It is an analytical tool. It's a step-by-step broken down analytical tool that um, that leadership position that leaders have to apply. Leaders need this. Leaders need the ability to connect the dots between the systems, and that is what they want. So analytical mindset is not always numbers. It is connections between systems.
Okay, this is by Anonymous. How do I do a self-evaluation to know whether I'm a problem creator? Is there any self-check?
I think the problem creator, well, I think if there are two people, one from the point of view of A, B is the problem creator, and from the point of view of B, A is the problem creator. So just by the way human beings are non-computer like, we are all problem creators, right? What you can definitely check is do a simple search to check your problem solving style. If you want a bit more insight into decision making style, there is something called ABCD styles, okay, of decision making. A is for analytic, B is for behavioral, C is for conceptual, D is for directive. Okay, ABCD styles of decision making. It's a simple test. It asks you questions. You just say very likely, unlikely, and it's a free test. And it will tell you the type of problem solver you are, ABCD style. A, analytical, they look at data, come up with a conclusion, right? They have understood connections, come up with a conclusion. Behavior, they look at people. So they are worried about what, not really worried, but they are more focused on, will my team do this? Will my team, who in my team can this task be given to? Who in my team can this task be given to? That is the behavioral decision making. Conceptual decision making is more the big picture. They're like, I see for the next 6 months, we will start promoting our product on 5 channels. like that, the big picture. And directive is somebody who is comfortable with high level. We need to increase our sales 50%. We need to increase our sales 100%, like that. Somebody who's more bang on the achievement part of it. So A, B, C, D styles. Look for inventories online to understand what is your style of decision making. But yeah, you as like anybody else in the whole wide world, the chances are we are all problem creators from the perspective of another person.
Okay, thank you. This is by Anonymous. If there is a problem with a group of people in my team, how should I handle this situation?
Okay, between two groups, um, problems between two groups are always because of conflicting interests, conflicting agenda. Okay, so group A wants something, group B wants something else. Classic example, within an organization, the sales team has overpromised and the service team or the development team cannot even understand what is being promised, or the technology is incapable of doing what the sales team has promised. Okay, classic example. So for example, just an arbitrary example, you may be selling washing machines. The sales team is likely to have said that this washing machine also makes rotis, and obviously the development team knows that the washing machine cannot make rotis, right? So in this case, you need to bring representatives of both teams. Representatives are trusted members who have a positive relationship with the different members of the team. Group representatives, because too many people will once again create chaos. Come to the table and to talk about what each one wants from themselves and what each one wants. Chances are a lot of the wants are similar, right? They all want what's best for the organization. So it requires representation, it requires discussion, and it requires these two members you have identified from the groups to be trustworthy members who will go back and carry forward your message without dilution. That's the first thing. The second is taking ideas and also asking for problems along with solutions. If you are team managers, encourage your team to come to you with problems. But remember, don't just be a receptacle for problems. You also encourage your team to come with solutions. When they come with solutions, ask them to keep other people in mind. As managers or as team leads, it's so important that you're not just putting out the fire, but you are creating a team that is also thinking about other people within the team. So representatives who are trusted, who come with problems and their own solutions so that a common ground can be made. That said, you may also be in a situation where you have to side with one team over the other. Here, do it calmly, do it confidently.
Okay. This is by Anonymous. My problem is my boss. He doesn't like me. How can I survive here? Job is important for me and for my family.
Yes, this is definitely a problem. Okay. Um, there is possibly evidence that your boss doesn't like you. This is not new. Okay. If everybody's bosses were liked, then sessions on problem solving would go out of business. So first off, you are not alone. Okay, this happens to everybody. This is at some point or the other in their careers, it does happen. That said, always remain calm. Okay, with the understanding that the other person does not like you, it is important that you remain calm. You define your own tasks and you conduct your tasks. Okay, and I believe that a confrontation would not really work with a manager if you feel they don't like you. It is also completely possible you have misread the situation. It is, it is possible that uh, you have uh, your boss actually likes you or actually does not think either this way or that, or you may be 100% true that your boss does not like you. Either way, you can only control your own behavior, and your behavior starts with staying calm. No matter what the other person does, your situation is, you want to do a good job, you want to be a high performer, you want to grow in your career. Your career does not depend on your boss. Okay, so this means don't take an irrational decision. Don't suddenly quit or anything like that. Don't take an irrational decision. Remain calm and do your job diligently. Invest in yourself. There will come a time where your brain will automatically see an opportunity to either make suitable changes or to communicate difficult situations. But for the moment, I would say remain calm. Getting anxious or trying to take action towards it would not help. I completely understand. And even if I say go talk to your manager, chances are if it is true that your manager doesn't like you, it may just cause more problems. But what you can control is to remain calm and continue developing and doing a good job.
Okay. Anonymous question. I'm finding it difficult to patch up the differences with my boss, with my colleagues, and also with my wife. Unfortunately, these three are same person. Is my life in a mess? How can I handle?
I am very sorry to hear that, Anonymous. My heart goes out to you. Three things we need. Okay, first is the ability to relax. Second is the ability to concentrate. Third is the ability to take calculated risks. Okay, that is why at the very start I showed the hierarchy of needs. Each of that need, food, water, shelter, digestion, health, they are all potential problem areas. A problem could crop up anywhere. The nature of life is such that, and the capacity of the brain is such that we either see, if we see problems in one area, we could have over time develop the tendency to see problems in different areas. You have to understand that work problems are not related to family or other issues. Okay, however, if you are facing anxiety, that means if you're not able to concentrate on your work, or you're not able to, your focus, you're not able to read an article, you're not able to concentrate or give something your full attention, you're not able to, obviously not 8 hours of attention, whatever is reasonable. If you're not able to relax, that is, you have the time, but you just cannot lie down and enjoy a magazine or just relax, or if you are not able to take a calculated risk, I would think you should seek help. Okay, these are signs for something slightly that requires some professional help. The good news is all of these problems can be solved. Okay. For me to sort of minimize your pain by answering it in a Q&A session would not give you the help you need. But these should be your three key features. Okay. Sometimes things do pile on, and human beings face it. The reality is human beings face these problems. Things do pile on. It is natural. It is not normal, but it is definitely natural, and it happens. Check for these three things, remain calm and seek the help if you need any help, and also prioritize at the moment what is more important, work problems or family problems. Okay, so definitely do seek your help, do seek the help you need by evaluating yourself. Maybe speak to a friend. Okay, sometimes just speaking out to a friend you may not get a solution, but just the idea that you have passed the burden on to somebody else could calm you down, and calming can be the first step, expressing your problems. But with very little detail, I don't think I can tell you much at the moment. But do calm down, I think, would be what I want to say. Yes, Crystal?
That was the last of the questions for now, Ranjita. Thank you
Okay.
so much for answering all the questions patiently and so empathetically. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Announcement to our subscribers and participants. Please have a look at the training programs for the rest of the week in the calendar displayed. So you could see the programs such as design thinking, new manager skills development, public speaking, conversational intelligence, ITIL foundation overview, and communication mastery. Please note the weekend topics are from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a lunch break of 1 hour from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And the weekday programs are from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Session timings are in IST. To stay updated on our training programs, please visit our e-learning page in our website. Thank you, Ranjita, for your presentation on structured approach to problem solving. It was really refreshing to hear on how we can look at the pandemic situation right now and make a right decision to overcome the problem. We do hope our participants and subscribers would be able to link problem solving to decision making. Thank you once again, Ranjita.
Thank you very much, and all the very best to everybody here.
Thank you. On behalf of QGenesis, we extend our hearty thanks to all our subscribers, participants, and the trainer of the session. Thank you once again, and thank you, team. See you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Good night to all of you. Thank you.